Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, bassist extraordinaire Rudy Sarzo. The new band is Devil City Angels. He's also in Gunzo with Tracy Guns. In fact, both bands feature Tracy Guns. Joining me this week to talk about Rudy, the one, the only, well, you know, Johnny D.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey.
So we're speaking Rudy Sarzo. Let's go with the obvious question. You were in BRITNY FOX, and you are in BRITNY FOX. The band is back out, thank God. Bravo on that.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
did you ever tour with Rudy or any of the bands that he was with? Quiet Riot, Ozzy Osbourne, Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, anything?
Guy's been everywhere.
Whitesnake.
Actually, only some festival gigs. I believe, but it wasn't with Britney. It was with Doro, and Rudy was in Dio. And because during I guess the Whitesnake days and stuff like that, we never got to share the stage together. And Quiet Riot gigs that we did together, I believe Chuck Wright was back in the band. So yeah, I have to say only some years with Ronnie.
Yeah, and of course, Ronnie and Doro had a special relationship, right? They were great friends.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, one of the first tours Doro got, with Warlock was with Ronnie, and she always kind of held that in a special place. And then we got a later tour. We went out with him in 2001 on the Magica tour in the States, which was huge for us because Doro kind of disappeared in America for a while.
Yeah.
And having that tour brought it back into a lot of people's focus. So
So
cool.
I'm assuming you had a chance then to hang out with Ronnie a bit and get to know him, right?
A little bit. He wasn't, I mean, it's tough to uh, get somebody like that's full attention because they're constantly working, busy, and also, there's so many people other than the support band vying for their attention. But there were a couple times where he would come in, check in with us in the dressing room or talk to Doro, or he was one to definitely hang out all night, after the show,
Right.
glass, couple glasses of wine or whatever, and he would be hanging and chatting with everyone, taking the time to talk to the people that he really wanted to talk to. And that was very cool. You didn't see that happen too often where, most of these big stars are out of the building before the support act,
Oh
gets a
yeah.
chance to try and, hey, can I snap a pic or say hello? Or
My
so.
my favorite story of a band that did that, the whole run in run out was Metallica last year at Heavy Montreal. They were great. They were supposed to go on at I think 8:30, and I spoke to one of the guys, not the band members, one of the tour guys, and I said, "Hey, it's 6:30. Where are you guys?" And they go, I think we're somewhere over Minnesota." And it's
Hmm.
like, uh-huh. And they landed, got to the venue, did their little sound check, and then at 11 o'clock, the show ended. They hustled them off into cars, and I said, "Where are you going?" They said, "We got wheels up at the airport at 11:30. We're going back to San Fran." It's like, wow,
Right.
that is dedication, right? I mean,
That's it's scary how organized it can be. I mean, on our level, it's we don't really travel in that kind of luxury. So it's hearing and seeing that happening. It's like boom, people are out of there. They don't mess around with. Can we hang? Let's hang out another hour. This is kind of fun. It's
right.
always just like if there's a time set in the day, that's when it's going to happen, and that's how the big boys do it.
Yeah, no, it's just amazing because your fans always go, "Oh, you've been to Montreal 10 times. What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite part?" And it's just like, yeah, we actually don't see it. We fly in, we fly out, and off we go. And
Yeah.
I think that's cool. But Speaking of hanging out backstage, Brittany Fox is doing a few shows this fall. How is that going so far in terms of setting up dates and of getting rehearsals and getting a set together and all that wonderful stuff?
It's going good. We took a break from the writing phase and just figured that we going out and playing some gigs would be a good idea just to get the energy flowing again and rehashing through some old tunes and just kind of getting all of that sauce going. So we've been trying to take care of uh, some preliminary things like set lists and things through emails and whatnot, and then we'll be heading out to Las Vegas for a week to rehearse. Tommy Paris lives out there, so we'll be meeting up out there, rehearsing, and then hitting a little bit of a West Coast weekend run, and then a little break, and we come back east for Atlanta, New York, and Philly, and then the next day I'm out over to do the Doro Winter Tour. So we
Wow.
probably will resume with Brittany in the new year.
Good. Yeah, you've got that cruise book, I think, for October of 2016 too, right?
Yes.
So that'll be fun. Now
That-
speaking of fun, let's get back here to Devil City Angels. It is the new album featuring Tracy Guns, Ricky Rocket, who I believe is somebody you know quite well,
yes, I do.
and Eric Brittingham of Cinderella plays on the album, but was replaced later on by Rudy Sarzo, which is interesting because I've been reading a few reviews and they go, "Wow, Rudy's bass playing on this is kick ass," and of course, had he played on it, that would obviously be true because he does play kick ass bass, but
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but it's Eric Brittingham of Cinderella who's on there. And then, of course, they've got Brandon Gibbs singing on this. Brandon, I don't know if you know, has been going out with CC DeVille, Ricky Rocket, and Bobby Dahl doing these. I don't know what they're calling the band. We're Not Poison or something like that.
No, it's like the special
Oh, the
guest or
special
something. Yeah.
guest. That's right.
Yeah.
Which is
Little surprise appearances here and there.
yeah, which is fine. I'm all for that. Had they called it Poison, we'd be debating. But calling it what they are and doing those Poison songs, hey, why not? Right?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a little bit similar situation to what we're looking at, and it's kind of like how long can you wait around for something that's basically never going to happen? And
Yeah.
I just there's times when you just feel like you have to take initiative, and I feel like for us we waited around way too long, and those guys are probably waiting for Brett to want to do a band thing, and he probably doesn't want to because he's got much more control and everything with
Yeah.
his own project. So it's tricky, but it's sometimes you just got to do what you got to do and go out and test the waters. And so I'm kind of looking forward to doing that myself too. But
With Brittany, yeah, and of
yeah,
course, and then of course you've got the Doro show. So the interview with Rudy actually runs quite long. It's about 43 minutes, 44 minutes, and we talk about pretty much everything. We talk about getting involved with Devil City Angels. We talk about some of the other bands he's with. And it's funny because at the end of it all, I asked him, "Hey, do you want to talk about Whitesnake or do you want to talk about Queensryche?" And I was expecting him to say, "Well, Whitesnake, of course, because I was part of that band for so long." And
hmm
he goes, "No, I'd rather talk about the stint with Queensryche and Geoff Tate." And it's like, "Oh, okay,
hmm.
interesting choice. I'll go with that." We talk about a little bit of the politics in Cuba, having being a Cuban American, and so tons and tons of information to go through. I'm sure fans will enjoy this. So why don't we just get into here is the one, the only Rudy Sarzo. We are speaking with bassist extraordinaire Rudy Sarzo. Good day, sir.
Good afternoon to you too, Mitch. How you doing?
Good, good. It's been a long time. Like I mentioned earlier, we haven't actually been in the same room in about 15 years. So
Yeah,
on
and you
that,
know what? from what I can see over the phone, you haven't changed a bit.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, it was a Poison tour back in the day. So with Quiet Riot on that, what were you, Al? You were supporting Guilty Pleasures, an album that had unfortunately not gotten the recognition it deserves. It had some great songs on there.
But you know what? Nowadays, what album does get any recognition that they deserve?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But great song on there called "Rock the House" that the Montreal Canadiens have actually played at their games every so often. So.
Oh wow! How cool is that?
Yeah, isn't that great? I mean, it's a great
I did
song.
not know that.
Yeah, they've been.
Did not know that.
For the last 14 years, every so often when you sit at a Montreal Canadiens hockey game, every so often, Rock the House will come out and get the crowd going.
Really?
So, yeah, so there you
Really?
go.
Does that mean that if I show up at one of the games, they'll let me in for free?
I can arrange that. Why not?
Great. Okay. I will. Next time I'm in Montreal, I will do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, boy, there's so much to talk about. I mean, you've played with Quiet Riot, Ozzy Osbourne, Whitesnake, Manic Eden. Who else? Blue Oyster Cult. You did the Geoff Tate
Dio.
thing. You did Devil City Angels, and now Gunzo. So
Yeah.
today's interview is about Devil City Angels. So let's start there. That's the new album that has Tracy Guns, formerly of LA Guns, Ricky Rocket. We don't know if he's formerly of Poison or not at this point, right? And of course, Eric Brittingham played bass on the album. How did
Correct.
you get involved in the project after it was recorded?
Yeah, it was it was a kind of like I'll put it this way. I've been touring with Tracy in a band called Gunzo,
Right.
From the beginning of the year. So when the issue came up that they were looking for another bass player, I guess I was like
Shooing. You were right there.
It's like, hey, the sensible guy to call. He's like, well, I was already touring with Tracy, and also I've known Ricky since the 80s when we share management while I was a member of Whitesnake. So we've done some touring together in addition to what you were talking about during the Quiet Riot days. Mm-hmm. So, I've known him. We have so much musical compatibility. Like you mentioned before, I used to be in Quiet Riot, which is, that type of really, straight ahead rock and roll, good time music. Well, that's what we used to do, even during the Randy Rhoads era. So, I always gravitate towards that type of music as much as I gravitate towards the heavier side of rock and roll. So when I got the call, if I wanted to be a member, I jumped right. I just jumped right into it. I didn't even have to think about it. Sure, of course.
When you listen to the album, being a bass player yourself, and you hear what Eric Brittingham does or did, do you think, "Ooh, that was great," or "Ooh, I would have changed that," or what? How do you react to what's on the album as it is?
Oh, it's very simple. I can actually talk about the record like no other member of the band can because I didn't play on it. So I can tell you how great it is without sounding egotistical because it's a great record. Yep. And I'm speaking from a fan point of view. And I love what Eric played on the record. It's really interesting. Every time I join a band that has a certain legacy, whether it's one album or many records, I always respect what the previous member has done before, because it's not just the point of view of the bass player that played on the track, but it also has to do with the reason that the tracks fit in so well is because everything's been filtered, right, through a producer or the band members discussing about it. Things don't happen by accident. A lot of effort and a lot of consideration goes into every single track that is recorded. So for me to change something just because I think whatever reason I should, it doesn't make much sense to me because I must play what the listener, the fan of the band already is used to. And then, as time goes on, every band, even if you have the original members, there's always a progression towards playing the song different from what it is on the record. But it is something that is a collective progression, not a single member progression. So yes, if Ricky all of a sudden decides to give it a whole different feel with the drums, I must go along with it. You know what I mean? if sometimes members, you've heard like different versions of the same song. Def Leppard is a really good example. They do in the middle of their set, they do acoustic versions of their hits.
Yep, they do.
So yes, as an artist, sometimes you feel like there's a need to break it down and treat it different, just for your own creativity, to keep it fresh. But it's not. It's usually when it's one person that is doing that, it doesn't really work.
In terms of the band and what it's going to do in the future, are there tour dates coming up? Once the album is out, are you going to be on the road for 3 months?
Okay. That's a strategy, is to wait and see what the strongest areas where the album is being purchased, and then we're going to concentrate on those first, and then expand from there.
Okay, so a tour is in the offing now. In the meantime, you're touring with Tracy with Gunzo. You've just made a vocalist change, right? Keith St. John is out of the band, and Michael is in the band. What precipitated...
Michael O'Mara, yes.
Michael O'Mara, yes, sure, of course.
Yeah.
I know that, but of course the listener, probably good that he knows that too, right? Michael O'Mara, what precipitated the change?
It basically came down to, we're in an era that musicians, the new model is to have multiple projects going on. And we had this tour in the UK that's coming up next week, actually on the 7th of September. And it conflicted with Keith's own commitment that he had to some other touring. So, it gets to a point that you have to fulfill the commitment that you already made to the promoters, and the fans already bought the tickets. So it was an amicable split, and we're just happy to have Michael on board.
What is the future of Gunzo in terms of recording? Is this just sort of and I don't mean this in a insulting way, but is this just a bar band, or is this something that is going to become a recording band where there's going to be a Gunzo album?
Well, using the term bar band is interesting, because today you're going to find a lot of recording bands with albums playing bars.
Yeah, and I just my brain froze up. I was trying to think of a better term, but I just meant as a tour. That's a touring band. Is it just a touring band? Is what I meant.
No, the SSC. When Tracy and I got together, we decided to do this outside the box, which actually meant going back to the way things outside of the box in reference to what goes on today, which is basically a bunch of guys get together and say, hey, let's make a record. And they make a record, and then they go on the road, then they become a band.
Right.
That's not the way it used to be done. Back in the day, for example, when I was a member of Quiet Riot, I played for a long time, with Randy Rhoads in Los Angeles. Then that version of Quiet Riot, which was actually Dubrow, had been playing around for a long time, Frankie and Carlos, before I rejoined the band. And even after we made the record, we still, you have to remember, a lot of the songs I already played with Dubrow, with Kevin, and also Slick Black Cadillac. I already used to play that with Quiet Riot. Right. So in essence, I went through that process. So we wanted to do the same thing. We wanted to become a band first, get to know each other musically. That's the way that all the greatest records were ever done. People knew each other as musicians. Van Halen, before they made the first record, they have been playing all over LA, and that's the way it used to be. So we wanted to go back to that. We wanted to, but in a way to do that, we just couldn't be, playing around LA, playing locally. He says, okay, let's take this on the road. Tracy said, listen, I already have some LA Guns, Tracy Guns dates booked. How about if we use those dates to do Gunzo? And even though most of the time it was still promoted as LA Guns, Tracy Guns, we wanted to make sure that once we hit the stage, people knew that this was Gunzo. And what we did is we split it. We split the set list. Half of it was
LA Guns.
LA Guns, songs that Tracy wrote and recorded. And the other half was from the bands that I had been in, from Ozzy and Whitesnake and Dio. we really didn't get to do any Quiet Riot because basically we were also doing shows with Quiet Riot.
Right.
So of course we're not going to play Quiet Riot songs with them, as headliners. That would have been stupid. But anyway, so and Keith towards the end was the singer in Montreux. So we would do a couple of Montreux. So we mixed it up like that. But we were not treating it as a tribute band. We played each song as we would have, as Gunzo. Right. Tracy didn't say, okay, you play exactly the bass lines that are on the record. No, because what we wanted to do was to actually get a feel for how we each played. And once we get to make the record, it's going to be an extension of what we've already been doing. Right. So being on the road gave us a lot of opportunity, not only to get to know each other as musicians, but also as people. And Tracy already has been working on a tremendous amount of pieces that we could actually, songs, basically finished songs that we can actually start recording immediately if we wanted to.
All right. So then the question becomes, what becomes Devil City Angels music with Rudy and Tracy, and what becomes Gunzo music with Rudy and Tracy?
It's very different, very right. different direction. Okay. That is a really good question because we have already addressed that. Devil City Angels will remain being a good time rock and roll melodic, songs,
Right.
And Gunzo, it's more, we love the Randy Rhoads Ozzy era.
Right.
So a lot of the music that's been composed, it's in that Diary of a Madman vein.
Gotta like that.
Yeah, it's not exactly that, but it's in the spirit of that direction that not a whole lot of people are doing, except for Ozzy when he plays that. But not a lot of the bands are actually doing that type of neoclassical rock.
Tracy is going back to Raiding the Rock Vault in Vegas for a short run. How does that affect both bands? Do you take a hiatus? Was there a planned break anyway? Do you play shows around his schedule? How does that affect it?
There will be an announcement made shortly that would answer your question.
Okay, that sounds that sounds fair and reasonable. I will ask you about Cuba for a second. You're obviously a Cuban American. In Canada and in Europe, Canadians and Europeans, we've been able to travel to Cuba as much as we wanted to. It's now opening up to American citizens. Is that something that is sort of on the agenda for you to try to get down there, much like the Dead Daisies did, and go play a show? What do you think of that whole situation?
Well, for many years, I've been in contact with the Cuban rock community.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, there's an incredible amount of rock and roll musicians down there. And there's even a ministry of rock in Cuba. I know it sounds like something out of Harry Potter, but it's true.
There's a ministry. Hey, there should be a ministry of rock in every government. But
yes, exactly. Okay, but so so I'm really, really, really aware and in touch with some incredible musicians down there, and this is something that the issue that I see in a country like Cuba, who has not had the musical references that we have had in Canada and the United States and the rest of the free world, is the fact that most of the rock bands get to tour in our countries, but that's not the case in Cuba. So growing up, any musician, who's had from my generation, I've seen Hendrix play live. I've seen Deep Purple, you name it, the Stones, at the early age. So as a musician, I could always go to a concert and see, oh, that's how they do this, and that's the kind of amp, and that is a great reference. I used to go to concerts just to get an education, right. Not really, to get high or party. Right. That to me was a total education.
Right.
And that's one thing that generation of musicians has really lacked. Because in Cuba, because of the limited amount of resources that they had to actually experience professional musicians touring through their country, as far as rock and roll goes.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I want to ask you also about the '90s. You did your you did your time with Whitesnake, and then David Coverdale took a little break. You formed a band called Manic Eden with Adrian Vandenberg, Tommy Aldridge, and Little Caesars Ron Young. An incredible, incredible album. I mean, it's a fantastic album. I mean, I bought it, I love it, I still love it to this day. Tell me about that project, and why didn't it get past just one album?
Well, actually, we made the record for Japan and France.
Okay.
Uh, at that time, the music that of Manic Eden was not really accepted or embraced in the United States. What I'm trying to say is the U.S. labels, the American record companies, did not really think that our music was viable at the time because
Okay.
of the heavy influence of grunge at the moment. So ours was more a straight ahead blues, bass, rock and roll, you know. And also, like you mentioned, there was a very short break, so it was kind of like in between of Adrian not being involved with David Coverdale, because right after the record was done, we did a very short tour of France, an acoustic tour, and then we actually went back. Adrian and myself went back to Whitesnake in '94, and we did a short tour, and that was the last time I played with Whitesnake, and Adrian remained in the band. So that's basically what happened to it.
It's
But it's definitely one of my favorite records I've ever played on.
it's a great record. I mean, I discovered it like 5 years after it came out, accidentally, just looking through whatever it was, like eBay or Goldmine magazine, and I went, "What the hell is this?" And look at all these guys on there, and I was like,
Yeah, you know, really the unsung hero of the whole record, and I'll tell you why. It's Ron Young, because we had a singer that was giving it a whole different vibe, atmosphere, the way that he was, his melodies and the lyrics, and that wasn't really working. That's not what the record company wanted. And so we brought in Ron, and by then all the tracks were cut, so he was very limited. We couldn't rearrange things to fit his vision of
right.
what he was going to sing. So he was able to adapt his singing to what was already recorded, and he did just a fantastic job. I
Oh,
mean, I think he took the record like a few notches up.
oh, agreed. Ron Young and Little Caesar are one of my guilty pleasure bands. They don't get a lot of press, they don't get a lot of attention, but well, if they ever come to town, get a ticket and go. They're very much worth it.
Absolutely
Quiet.
phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely phenomenal. Quiet Riot. The band still tours. Frankie is still out there. Why don't you tour with Quiet Riot? Why the split?
I don't know. It's not a split
Okay.
at all. I mean, Frankie remains. I don't know if you ever seen the documentary. I mean, I was part of the documentary. Frankie and I, we get together, every month, at least once or twice, and we've even done shows together lately. I am a huge supporter of what he's doing. I mean, I'm so glad that he's carrying the legacy of the band. Basically, what you have right now is the same band as when Kevin and Frankie got back together in the 2000s, right before Kevin passed away. A few years right before Kevin passed away, Chuck was in the band,
Right.
and Alex was in the band.
Right.
So this is basically a continuation of that
Right.
version of the group. And then I don't know if you ever watched the documentary. Frankie went through a lot trying to find the right singer, and
Yep.
thank God Jizzy
Yep.
has turned into a phenomenal, frontman for Quiet Riot, and I couldn't be happier for all the guys in the band, because we are all part of the Quiet Riot family, and we all work very hard, to either make the band successful or keep it, at a certain successful level, which right now the band is really, really enjoying. They're an incredibly successful band right now. So, to me, I'm so happy for Frankie, for Quiet Riot's legacy of everything, of all the good things that are happening right now.
Speaking of phenomenal success, the album Metal Health, when it came out, talk to me a little bit about that sort of roller coaster ride because the band had been sort of an LA, club scene staple, doing very well, playing a lot of shows, and then this thing came out and everything changed. The whole scene changed. What AOR started doing, what radio started doing, what record companies started, bands they started signing, all changed because of you guys. Suddenly
Yeah, I
everybody
mean,
had. Go ahead.
yeah, through music history, you got some pivot points. That a certain band comes out and for whatever reason, timing or the sign of the times or cultural, social, whatever is going on. Ours was MTV. Without MTV exposure that we got, I don't think the '80s would have existed.
Mm-hmm.
Not just for us, but for everybody, including Michael Jackson or Prince, or Madonna or Sting,
Yeah.
everybody. I mean, we all definitely benefited from what MTV, the exposure that we got on MTV. And that to me was the biggest game changer. The fact that we got signed in 1982, just about the same time when MTV was taking off, and we were one of the very first bands because we had a record deal and distribution through Columbia at the time. Now Sony.
Right.
And so we were in the record stores where the other bands on the Sunset Strip either had EPs that were done independently but didn't have the major distribution or the budget for a high quality video like we did because we were already signed. And at the time, MTV was really hurting for content. They didn't have enough high quality videos to play. So it didn't matter who you were. If you had a good song and a good quality video, MTV will give you airplay. And it got to a point with Come On Feel the Noise that we were on just about every half hour. And it was just, I mean, you don't get, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Justin Bieber or Kanye West. You don't get every half hour to have your video play on any television outlet. It's impossible. But that's the way it was with MTV back then. And that really, really made a difference. Now, by the time that the record, because it went from coming out in March of '83, mm-hmm. by the time November rolled around, we had reached number one on the Billboard spot. And by then, a lot of the bands that had been around town, struggling, just like Dubrow that turned into Quiet Riot, they started getting the attention from the record companies. They're saying like, wow, I mean, this type of music, people are buying it. So, okay, let's sign, let's get Motley Crue going here, or let's get Dokken, and let's get Rat and Great White and everybody, we were all part of the same music scene on the Sunset Strip.
When you look back at that album, I mean, first of all, do you ever listen to it anymore? And are you proud of the album, or are you like every musician that sits back and goes, oh, I should have changed that. Oh, I should have played that here. I mean, are you critical of it, or you think, you know what?
Funny enough, you asked me that question. I just heard it on Sirius XM this morning. I heard Come On Feel the Noise, and I listened to it and I'm going, okay, for its time, it's really, it's a snapshot.
Right.
It's, to me, that's what music is. You can take a look at a photo of yourself 30 years ago. You can't really say, well, I wish I would have worn my hair different or worn different clothes. You can't do that because it was all in reference to what's going on at the time. It's a snapshot. So that song, to me, I listen to it and I go, it's completely a snapshot of who we were at that very, very moment.
And it was a great, great moment. I got to tell you. I as a kid back then, I remember seeing your videos all the time, and it was always sort of Quiet Riot followed by Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. That seemed to be the mix they liked to do all the time for some reason. Ozzy Osbourne and Ronnie James Dio, both phenomenal singers, both fronted Black Sabbath, and of course you got to play with both. How was that for you in terms of, them vocally? I know you can't really go ahead and say, well, one's better than the other, because you don't do that. But what was it like standing on stage with Ozzy and then later on standing on stage with Ronnie James Dio, two of the most recognizable vocalists ever, quite frankly?
A total blessing. I mean, you can't compare one with the other. You know, one is Ozzy. Ozzy is the most incredible Ozzy you're ever going to meet.
Yep.
And so is Ronnie James Dio, the most incredible Ronnie James Dio. I mean, these are individuals who have taken who they are, you know, with life. You know, it's not just about their singing; it's life in general. You know, it's their pursuit of happiness, their pursuit of individualism, doing what they think is right for themselves and for their loved ones. You know, these are guys who have taken that to the highest level possible. You know, I have been so well taken care of in both bands, treated, and in every single aspect, both in Ozzy and both in Dio. And they are just, I mean, to look back at my time with them, all I can say is what a gift from God that has been.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just remarkable to have been able to play with both. I mean, I guess with the exception of Geezer Butler, you're the only person who can say that in terms of bass
I
players.
think, and you know what, and Bob Daisley.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah. So I'm in really good company.
Yeah, you are. There is a traveling tribute to Randy right now called Randy Rhoads Remembered. That they'll be on the Axes and Anchors cruise coming up. They've done some shows in California. Tell me a little about the Randy Rhoads Remembered band.
Yeah. The Randy Rhoads Remember it's basically the brainchild of Brian Tichy and Joe Sutton, and it's now part of what they call the California Festival, which is like they usually do like 3 shows in a row. Mm-hmm. One of them is the Bonzo Bash. The other one is the Randy Rhoads Remember, and the other one is a tribute. It's called the Ox and the Loon, right, which is, of course, you know, Keith Moon and John Entwistle. So, and I have actually I was on the road last year. We did a little tour of the East Coast in the U.S. with the Randy Rhoads Remembered. And it's amazing, you know, for me, it's a different experience because I've had this conversation with the guys, you know, that participate. To play those songs from the Randy fans, you know, I'm talking about the guitar players that participate. The reason why they're on stage is because they were inspired and they're fans of Randy and they know the music. And that's probably some of the first songs they ever learned, you know, how to play back at when they were starting out. And for them, it's kind of like a point, like an angle of paying respect and celebrating his music. And of course, the same goes for me, but it's a little bit deeper because I can actually transport myself to being on stage. Like, for example, we did one earlier this year at the NAMM show, mm-hmm, and Brad Gillis joined us.
Wow.
Was it this year or last year? No, actually it was last year. And joined us. And we actually, you know, Brad Gillis was one of the guitar players up to Randy died, you know, in the band. So we actually did certain things, you know, arrangement-wise, the way that we did them back when we were both playing together with Ozzy. And it was just, it was incredibly emotional for me to be able to, you know, to be in that moment playing with Brad, reminiscing, you know, about being, you know, playing with Ozzy, especially at a time, you know, recently there was a release of, it's called Speak of the Devil, which is it's a different Speak of the Devil from the re-recordings of the Black Sabbath songs.
Right.
It's actually the Diary of the Madman tour filmed at Irvine in California, Irvine Meadows. And of course it was scheduled to be performed with Randy, but of course he passed away. So it was an MTV special.
Right.
And I was asked to write the liner notes. And one thing that I wanted to put across to whoever was going to watch the DVD was actually the emotional roller coaster that they were going to be watching. They might not have been aware of what was going on through our heads or our souls while we were playing that set every single night after Randy passed away. But I got to tell you, it was to say that it was tough, I will be undermining it. Because I got to tell you, and especially for Ozzy, because, you know, I could always hide behind my bass and just play the songs and get lost in it. But for Ozzy to actually be able to sing, knowing the pain that he was going through on a daily basis, I don't even know how he did it. So it was, you know, so that show that it's been recorded, you know, and it's available for people to watch. I just wanted to make sure that whoever was watching it didn't just take it lightly and say, okay, these guys playing the song. No, it was, to me, it was a total, it was a really valiant effort from everybody in the band, especially Ozzy Osbourne, to be getting up there every single night after Randy passed away. So, matter of fact, when I saw myself during one of the early edits of that video, mm-hmm. when I saw that I had become almost robotic in my performance, I wasn't looking at the band, I wasn't looking at the audience, I was just trying to survive the show. You know, because you have to take into consideration every time that we would play, the first thing you would hear when the lights went down was Randy playing. You know, was the intro of his classical piece of Diary of a Madman. Mm-hmm. Boy, if that doesn't, you know, like hit you like a sledgehammer, you know, going like, oh my God, oh, and now I gotta play. You know, it was tough, man. So I realized that I had just, in order for me to survive each show, I had to like, you know, basically just become a robot on stage and just play notes and get it over with. You know, that was like my shield, you know, my emotional shield. That I saw that, I said, you know what, I did not, you know, spend my life trying to become a musician to turn into this. That's when I decided that I had to move on from Ozzy. Yeah. And remember, I left one of the biggest bands in the world to join the complete unknown. Yep. Nobody, when I joined Quiet Riot, nobody in Los Angeles, we couldn't even get a manager.
No.
And this is what the record done. We were going to managers and saying, yeah, we got this record, Metal Health. We're looking for a manager. Oh, we're not interested in that. And you guys' music. It's dinosaur music. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. And so I left Ozzy for that, you know. And yeah, but it was my emotional refuge, you know, to play again with my old friends, you know, Kevin, who I was actually living with up until the day that I joined Ozzy, right. and my old friend Frankie Banali, you know, right. and Carlos, who I had known from the circuit of him being in another band called Snow. So all I wanted to do was just like, you know, again, pursuit of happiness. I wanted to be a happy musician once again.
Do you think that you going from Ozzy to Quiet Riot had any part in the band's profile being raised and being more successful? Because you were, of course, like you said, in Ozzy, which was having an incredible success in the early 80s. Did all of a sudden, hey, Quiet Riot with that guy from Ozzy, all of a sudden make it more attractive, you think? Or was it no effect?
If the band would have sold 50,000 copies, I would say probably.
Right.
But you don't sell millions of records and beat records such as Thriller and Synchronicity to number one by one person, you know, having been in another band.
Oh, I agree. I agree totally. But do you think the record company paid a little more attention to you and maybe MTV said, ooh, hey, do you think? No. Okay.
No, because originally the first video was Metal Health.
Right.
And it didn't fly.
Gotcha.
On MTV. The second one, Come On Feel the Noise. It was the combination of the song and the video, I guess. It was the song.
Okay.
People just loved that song, you know. And, yeah, it was the song it was the band that sold the record and the band playing that song and the song. Yeah.
So you in a sense, and I don't want to say lucked out, but you fell into a good situation where the band got it to that next level. With the Randy Rhoads Remembered, earlier this year, you had a chance to play with Randy's brother, Kel. How was that?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I've known Kelly, God, since the 70s, Wonderful. And it's wonderful. We do these shows, Randy Rhoads Remembered, to celebrate Randy's legacy and his music, and having his family there participate. There's no bigger, seal of approval than that.
Yeah. Is that something where there's going to be a lot more shows coming out? Because I know you've got the Anchors, or Axes and Anchors cruise. Is there any other plans for 2016?
For Randy Rhoads Remembered? Well, it's funny because actually, ask Tracy Guns, not as Gunzo, because a lot of the dates we've been doing originally were LA Guns, Tracy Gunn shows. The Axes and Anchors was actually booked as a Tracy Guns show. Then I joined, then it became Gunzo, and then Randy Rhoads Remember was booked.
Okay.
And so, of course, me being there, it's a no-brainer. Of course, I'm going to participate. There's always the NAMM show. I think it's they do Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So Thursday is usually Bonzo Bash, Friday is Randy Rhoads, and Saturday is the Loon and the Ox event. So in addition to that, it's as far as 2016. It's too far ahead. Us musicians, our world changes with a phone call or a text or something,
Yeah, no, I know that. I know we've gone long here, so I'll just ask you a couple of last questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Animetal, this band that you did out in Japan with all kinds of makeup and all that stuff. Anything else going on with Animetal?
Yeah, we're just changing labels now, and we're getting ready to go in the studio to follow it up. We've had 2 records out there with Sony, but actually debuted on #1 each record, yep, as not as an import, but as an actual, domestic release. Yep. So we were very happy with that, and we got to tour in Japan, and we played Loud Park and all of that. So yeah, I can't wait to get back to Japan with Animetal USA.
That'll definitely be something exciting. And do you know if Marty Freeman, formerly of Megadeth, will still be involved?
Well, Marty did the arrangements on the first album, and then of course he was part of our publicity tour that we did on the first record. Then on the second record, it was Christian Palatteri that did the arrangements, so Marty wasn't really involved. But we would always love to have Marty involved with anything that we do. He's an incredible musician and a great friend.
And then, should we finish with a Whitesnake question or a Geoff Tate question?
Because we haven't really talked much about Geoff. How about Geoff?
Yeah, let's talk about Geoff. So you were involved in Frequency Unknown, which I thought was a very good record. I personally, I loved Geoff.
Very good record. Excellent record. Yeah.
And you did that album and you did some touring, and now
I did 3 songs on the record. Two or three songs. I can't recall 2 or 3 because we did play a couple of them live that I played on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I toured with the band for about a year and a half as Geoff Tate's Queensryche, and then once the settlement was done between
the
Queensryche,
right?
Yeah, the other guys. Then officially, that version of the band became known as Operation Mindcrime.
Right, and why didn't you stick it out with Operation Mindcrime?
Well, it's very simple. When I got the call to do to be a member of Geoff Tate's Queensryche, was at a time that I was looking for certain musical, more of a progressive direction, something that I hadn't done in a long time, musically. and I was told that it was going to be the whole Operation Mindcrime in its entirety being performed, and I thought, wow, what a great show that's going to be, plus selected hits from Empire and so on,
Right.
And so that really, really appealed to me because it wasn't kind of like, okay, we're going to go out there and spend like, a few months making a record or anything like that. No, it was just like put together. This is what we're going to do, which was like, it just suited my creative moment or at that moment, I wasn't really looking for an extra creative outlet because I was doing Animetal USA at the time.
Right.
And I was doing other projects that were, part of my creative, my creative and I don't know, outlet
or whatever.
Yeah,
outlet.
I was working on other records, other projects, and so on. So, but after doing it for about a year and a half, and which would have meant at the time that I would have to like really, really commit fully, to that version of the band, Operation Mindcrime, and getting to know Geoff, and Geoff really needs to have his vision realized. He's an incredible artist.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that he knows, and he has this idea in his head that this is what the record's going to sound like and what the music is going to be like, that it really, I felt that I didn't have that much room myself for any creative participation.
Right.
And, which is fine. But that moment, after doing that for a year and a half, I felt that I had pretty much done as much as I under those circumstances. So when I got together with Tracy Guns and we started working on Gunzo, that was one of the first things that we addressed. Definitely the creative aspect of the group, And as soon as we found out that we had a collective vision between him and me, everything started falling into place.
Right.
And we've been working together ever since.
Well, it certainly is. It's working out with Tracy, and the time with Geoff was short, but I understand. Listen, I like Geoff quite a bit, and he does have a vision for his music, and you sort of have to jump on the train or hop off at the next station, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and,
which I got to tell you, it's a wonderful train to be on because I got to tell you, some of the most magical moments I ever had on stage was actually playing with him, playing the music that he wrote and collaborated with, with the other band members in Queensryche. And I got to tell you, there's no finer performer, vocalist, and actually human being, than Geoff Tate. I got nothing but praise.
Oh, we lost you there. You have nothing but praise for Geoff, I suppose.
Yeah, I have nothing but praise for Geoff Tate.
Okay,
it's
great.
That's somebody else trying to me for some reason.
Oh, you got some call waiting. Well, listen, let go take that call. Let me just say it was an absolute pleasure as always speaking with you, and thank you. Just absolutely
thank
wonderful.
you so much, Mitch. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the next time. Hopefully, it's not 15 years later.
No. Come on out to Montreal. We have a nice festival here called Heavy Montreal in August. You got to get yourself booked on it. Got to get yourself.
A must.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a must, my friend. God
Thank
bless
you, sir.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Take care.
There you have it, folks. My interview with bassist Rudy Sarzo. The new band is Devil City Angels. The new album is Devil City Angels as well. It is out now. You can catch Rudy with the band or Gunzo, both also featuring Tracy Guns. Johnny, always a pleasure to have you co-hosting, and you've also been doing your own interviews for BRITNY FOX. How's that been going?
It's going good. I was a little out of practice. I mean, all these years in Doro, I don't really get to speak much because nobody wants to talk to me. But
and they're all German interviews,
right? Mostly, yeah. But in BRITNY, it's cool. We get to split stuff up and each tell our little tales or try to remember things that happened 25 years ago, and you get 4 different stories or 2 or 3 different ones.
What are some of the dirty little secrets? I mean, like, do you get annoyed by a constant flow of reporters saying, "So, what's your favorite song you ever did?" Or remember that time when like are there some questions that just drive you crazy, or you go, well, don't we have anything more like anything?
Once in a while, that a good question will pop up, but yeah, I mean, the problem is remembering a lot of the stuff. If I could remember the stories when I was like put on the spot like that, I would definitely enjoy to tell them. But I should really write them down and just have a script in front of me and go, okay, I remember that story. I'll write it down, and then when I do an interview, kind of have it ready to go. Because sometimes you just blank
Right.
and either tell the same story over again. So I end up telling, oh yeah, Poison, came out on the last gig and threw whipped cream pies in our face and all this stuff, which was documented on our home video, a few months after it happened. So any fan probably knows that story already. And then, but the real good stuff, the dirty stuff, always kind of like doesn't pop into the brain cells quick
Right.
enough. So I'm gonna have to work on that. I'll have to dig up some
Some
new
good
stories.
stories.
Yeah, I used to keep a diary back then, and I would write. I wish I would have kept doing that because there's so much going on so quickly, even when you're traveling or you're, meeting somebody or this happened and that happened. And I just read Bob Daisley's book.
Yeah.
So detailed, man. It's unbelievable the stuff that guy. But he took photos from day one. He wrote everything down from day one, and that's so cool. I wish I would have kept up with that.
Well, you're going on a tour. Well, you're going to play these shows soon, and you've got the Doro thing. There could be the 2015 Brittany Fox Diary, and then, of course, the Doro Diary. It's never too late.
A Doro Diary. That sounds like
Like a book.
yeah, that's a good one.
I think we just named a book. There you go.
Hmm.
Uh, how important is for you that the reporter you're talking to has done some research?
Oh, absolutely.
Essential.
It's such a difference. It just happened today, and I mean, I did like three in the last 2 days, and two of them definitely did their homework, and one not so much, and then the two were so much more enjoyable to do
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm just spending time talking about stuff that I've already done. But if they know that, they'll kind of be more, uh, short about it. Just kind of get it out of the way and talk about the future or what's happening now. So yeah, I definitely prefer that.
Yeah, you need the research done, and I think you also when you're giving the interview and you're being interviewed, you have to be courteous to ask about the new project. When you get Scorpions or Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue on the phone, it's very
Yeah,
easy to just go, "So tell me about 1985."
yeah, straight
To
to
the
the classic days or
Yeah,
the good old days.
and that's not really fair because the reason they're on the phone with you is because they're promoting the new Shaker Shaker or the new whatever tour. And I think you need to be respectful and say, hey, let's talk about this new album. Let's
Yeah,
talk about the tour. And if we still have some moments left in the whatever 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes I've been given, let's get into that good stuff. And I think, you know, it seems to be the right thing to do. I don't think you should always just go in and say, so, Johnny, tell me about the time Brittany Fox was in Lewiston, Maine, and you opened a show with Slaughter, and it's like, okay, great, but I have a new album.
yeah, yeah.
you know?
I
No.
thought you should have asked Rudy how he is able to morph himself into so many bands over so many. I mean, it's like the guy has like
Oh,
three or four clones.
yeah. Well, I didn't talk about the cloned Rudies, but we did talk about all the different bands, obviously, and I focused on one that is forgotten called Manic Eden, a band that he did with Tommy Aldridge and Ron Young, the lead singer of Little
Little
Caesar.
Caesar, yeah, man.
That album is such a killer album, and yet people don't know it, have never heard of it, don't understand it. but it came out in 1994, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and it just fell off the face of the earth. And I mean, you look at, I mean, yeah, Adrian Vandenberg, Rudy Sarzo, Tommy Aldridge, Ron Young. Like, hello.
Yeah, it's a cool combination for sure.
But 1994, that's when people just went, yeah, dude, you ain't Nirvana, you ain't
Right,
Pearl Jam,
right.
go jump in a lake. But
Yeah.
if any of you listening to this can find that Manic Eden album on eBay or at a record store, or maybe it's on, I don't know if it's on Spotify, but maybe it is, you got to go listen to it. It's one of those great lost albums. So yeah, we talked about that too, and I think that I could hear Rudy's ears perk up when I talked about it, because I think he's proud of the album, and it's like, wow, I thought people had forgotten about this. So
Yeah.
there you go. Always a pleasure. We'll do this again soon,
Cool.
and I think in the next one. We'll do a little bit of a BRITNY FOX interview at the up front, so to get talking about the band. It's nice to see the band again.
Cool. Well, I'll dig out some of my old stories. I'll try to get a few.
Get the script
goodies.
ready. Get the script ready. The only story that's really worth going over is Lewiston, Maine, and Noah's Ark swimming on by while all that rain was pouring into the venue under the doors, and oh my god.
I think you remember more of that thing than I do. I don't remember anything other than the rain or tripping into a giant puddle in the parking lot trying to get to the van.
It's funny. Somebody the other day had this great line. This person said, that's part of a conversation I was having, I would build Noah's Ark and take every animal, blah, blah, blah. And the person looked and said, if I was Noah, I would have taken just the beavers and built a fucking dam to stop all.
Good one.
Goes, I would have just taken all the beavers over to where the flood was coming in and have them build a goddamn dam.
Release the beavers.
Yeah.
Imagine.
What do I need with an ox? I need a fucking beaver. It's just like such a great line.
That's awesome.
Anyway, hopefully that hasn't insulted anybody, because But there you go. Another one-on-one with Mitch Lafon. Join me or find me at Mitch Lafon on Twitter, Facebook one-on-one with Mitch, and of course, what do we got? BRITNYFOX.com. BRITNY FOX. Correct me if I've made any mistakes. It's just at BRITNY FOX on Twitter, right?
Britney_Fox.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You got all the underscores.
Pain in the ass, all that nonsense.
Yeah, and of course, D Drums.
Yes.
So there you go on Twitter. Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Cheers.